So the movie Flight Risk stars Topher Grace, I don't know, the guy from that 70s show, I don't know how to say his name, directed by Mel Gibson. It's about a pilot who has to transport a fugitive and a U.S. Marshal so he can get to trial and testify. And on board, you are presented with a mystery of somebody not being who they're supposed to be. We have to figure it out and survive this little action thriller. But the real mystery behind Flight Risk are two questions. First off, who gave Mark Wahlberg this haircut? And second off, who decided to give Mark Wahlberg this accent? Because for some reason, he decides the whole movie, he's gonna talk like this, he's gonna do an accent like this. And it is probably the most insufferable accent ever, and that only goes on for about 15 minutes or so. So that's what we're getting into here. But basically, you have these three people on a private jet, and they're going to take this guy to court so he can testify. And you're supposed to have a little bit of a whodunit, an action thriller. It's kind of a throwback homage to like the 70s, 80s action comedies, which is kind of a problem because the jokes in this movie are not good. We'll leave it at that. It's a very, very dry style of comedy where it just felt like the jokes were just falling flatter and flatter by the minute. Maybe that's because the movie was losing me, or maybe that's just because they just kept doubling down on the same style of humor. But I didn't find a single joke in this movie funny, and it's about 90 minutes, feels like 2 hours. I think the real reason this movie was named Flight Risk is because the real person who's the flight risk is whoever buys a ticket to this movie. This is one of those rare occasions I highly debated leaving. I was a flight risk myself because this is a movie I don't really know who it's for. It's kind of an action comedy without any jokes and without any satisfying action. And I guess you could call it a mystery by my description, but they kind of reveal it within the first 12 minutes. And let me just say this too. This movie was like, the first 15 minutes felt like it was an entire hour. This movie feels like it takes forever to get going. And it doesn't. It was like 20 minutes into the film by the time I thought I'd been in it for an hour. So this is an incredibly slow burning action comedy that I don't really think works on any front. The real issue with this film is because of all of the things I said, you're just spending time with three characters for the most part, none of which are very fleshed out, none of which are very interesting. The jokes aren't landing, the action is completely forgettable. As I said, it feels like it's a throwback to 70s, 80s buddy cop action comedies, but the comedy is not it. And it's just not that interesting. It's a pretty boring film for 90 minutes to feel like 2 hours. You can almost never miss with an action comedy with this type of format, and this one misses in every way. Whenever you have a film that chooses to be this low scale with this few characters in such a small setting, you really make the audience pay attention to logic and scrutinize your behavior because they have nothing else to pay attention to. This movie, for having such a small cast and such a small location, I feel like had some really stupid characters, especially the U.S. Marshal, who just does asinine things and breaks protocol. She's not professional. So it's kind of hard to get into any of these characters or anything going on in this movie because you just don't care about any of these people. I kind of feel like Mark Wahlberg is the silent actor nobody critiques anymore. He feels like he's entering Kevin Hart Rock territory, where people talk about these people being in these big budget movies and they play the same role every time. Mark Wahlberg is getting scary close to getting in that chastised territory. If Mark Wahlberg's in a movie, I will probably not be there. This is just his latest dud where he's supposed to be in this action thriller that just doesn't have anything that I would imagine most people are here to see. A big risk you have whenever you narrow your entire script into such a small location with such few characters. You have to make those characters interesting. You have to make those characters likable. You have to have a mystery we're engaged in. They have no interesting characters. The mystery's not engaging because they reveal it very early on. So you only have the action to fall back on and maybe some suspenseful movie that ends up having twists. Doesn't really have any twists either. This movie's completely straightforward. So I'll say it again for like the third time. I really don't know who this movie is for. I will say it is good to see Mel Gibson back directing something, but unfortunately it's this. To put it simply, this movie feels like it's January personified. A movie that was thrown away at the box office. They knew nobody was going to see. No expectations for it because they knew the type of movie this was. This is the most January movie of the year, yet this movie is absolute background noise. So after seeing this, if you still have interest in seeing this film, or if you somehow managed to see it already, comment down below, let me know what you think. Did you think this movie was as big of a dud as I did? As always, if you haven't subscribed, join me down below. I love talking movies with you, but I will see you in the next review. Peace.